Pulitzer Prize-winning author John Updike, best known for his novel Rabbit Run, emerged as one of America's most brilliant young writers of the 1950s and 60s. The heart of Updike's writing beats in his hometown of Shillington, near the city of Reading in Berks County, Pennsylvania. This is where many of Updike's greatest works and characters took shape. He wrote that his childhood home at 117 Philadelphia Avenue was where his artistic eggs were hatched.
Shillington was a very important place for the first 18 years of his life. This house that we're in right now was the center of his existence. We're in one of the traditionally Pennsylvania Dutch counties, and that's Updike's heritage. And the names that are mentioned in his writings when he mentioned Shillington, or this house, or this area, are heavily Pennsylvania German. They're not invented. They're the names of real families. His stories centered on a fictional version of Shillington, and it expresses the deep, deep nostalgia that Updike felt about this area.
Born March 18, 1932 at Reading Hospital, Updike grew up in an educated family. His mother, Linda, encouraged his creativity. She herself had aspirations of being a writer, but unfortunately, she would face many rejections.
Updike used to sit right there when he heard the postman coming up the lane. He'd be playing marbles or something on the floor, and the mail would cascade down on his head. And the mail was very often returned manuscripts of hers that hadn't been accepted.
His mother always thought of him as someone special. She had a kind of a sense of him as a child of destiny, as if she knew that he would become a great writer.
Updike graduated from Shillington High School as co-valedictorian and class president in 1950. For the first 3 summers after high school, he worked as a copy boy at the Reading Eagle newspaper, eventually producing a few feature stories for the paper.
He enjoyed his summers at the Reading Eagle, often an errand boy, but it gave him a chance to observe people in action. He was very observing, and that helped him as a writer.
Updike received a full scholarship to Harvard College and would eventually leave his hometown behind, but it never left his heart.
There was always a sense that he wasn't going to stay here. He loved the place. It was his touchstone for everything in his life, but he wasn't going to stay here. He needed the distance from here to be able to write about here.
Rabbit Angstrom is Updike's most famous character, and probably the character for whom he will be longest remembered.
Updike published Rabbit Run in 1960. It was the first installment of what would later become a 4-part series. Set in a fictionalized version of Reading called Alton, the books center on Harry Rabbit Angstrom, a former high school athlete who 8 years out of school feels washed up and frustrated with life.
Rabbit Angstrom was actually based on 2 people he knew, kind of a composite of 2 people. He often said if he had not left Pennsylvania, he would have turned into Rabbit Angstrom. As he says, I was great once, and now I know what it's like not to be great anymore. That's a theme that will hold a novel together for a long time.
Rabbit became his way in to America. If you want to write the great American novel, you want to find your way kind of into the heart of what you might think the American experience is. And so Rabbit, who was an athlete, nice looking, but also experienced some of the failures and tragedies characteristic of middle-class Americans. And I think that the heart of his achievement would be the Rabbit books. And I think he will be remembered. He's a very great American writer.
John never left Berks County. He always said that. He loved Berks County. That was his home. This is where he developed his love of writing, his love of literature.
This was his ideal of a place to grow up. Even though he kept saying that he would stop writing about Pennsylvania, he really never did. He was just drawn back to it again and again, and it seems to me it was the most intense relationship of his life with Shillington.
In A Soft Spring Night in Shillington, this wonderful essay that begins his memoir, Self-Consciousness. He walks around these streets that meant so much to him, and he comes in front of this house, and he looks up at it, and he says, As a successful older person, it seemed blunt, modest in scale, simple. But he also said it possessed a precious, mystical secret. That this was the place in all the world where the core secret of his creativity, his inspiration, was located.